Woo! Okay,
Woo!
okay. How are you doing this beautiful day? How's everything coming on?
I'm great. I love seeing you on location. Look at you.
Uh,
Where are you?
I'm at the Gaylord Hotel. This is at the National Harbor in Maryland, Alexandria, really, Virginia, which is very, very beautiful, I tell you. And as you can hear, the thunder is is up and above. And if it starts to rain, I'm just gonna scoot under this tree and keep it going.
Are you serious? Oh, I thought that was your microphone. Oh no.
No, it was a thunder, and then the beautiful. You should see the landscape here. It is awesome. It is so awesome. So
Really?
how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to share this. I'm sorry. I'm like trying to do like
I,
a gazillion things at once here.
I know,
Um,
I know, I
Shoot, no,
know.
that's not where I want to share it. Okay, why is it not letting me do this? Anyway, keep talking. What are you doing there?
So I'm at my daughter's. There's a national championship AAU basketball that they're having with so many teams from all over the country, California, Florida, just every single place. And they're in the basement of this hotel, and they're having a time of their life. You know, roughly about 5 games they should be playing. Um, uh, Took the time. We're resting right now, so there's another game at 2:45 that we're going to. But we're good. How's everything on your end, Tracy? How's everything on your end?
It's good. I'm not getting any feedback now. I was getting some feedback and I'm not getting it now because I turned off Facebook. It's good. It's good. I need some trees behind me though, because I'm like looking and I'm like, oh,
Sis.
it's really true though. Like the feeling you get when someone is like on location or what, you got the stuff, the live stuff going on behind them. There's some energy in that. It's
There
nice to
is.
be back out and about, isn't it?
It sure is. It sure is. And you should have seen this setup and you got people passing. And you know how people come behind and do. So someone came behind and was doing it. I was like, oh, there has to be a fool everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, you get the people who what do they call it when they start bombing you,
It's not bombing.
behind, like
Yes.
it's like you're, if this is a show you want to be on, great.
Hey, that's it. Hey, let's
Welcome.
do it. Let's do it.
Welcome. But things have been good. I actually have had some pretty cool stuff happen over the last couple of weeks.
Excellent.
Where things have dropped in more. Like I've really been challenged to create some language around exactly what I bring more, right? More refinement. It's kind
Gotcha.
of the game we play, right? Is like how do we keep refining it? And it often does, like I said, come through challenge.
Right.
Where somebody's like, "Oh, you should do it this way."
Hmm.
And so I had, let me just give some context here. I had an opportunity with a client. I have two main offerings that I offer to one-to-one coaching, for one-to-one coaching. And one of them I like better than the other because it really allows me to do my best work, right? We know where we do our best work. And for me, that's my year package, right? For the experiential piece that I offer, like you can't really get the felt sense of that in a couple of sessions, right? Because it's going to feel different. So that awkwardness of feeling different sometimes can like throw people off and think, I don't get it. What value am I getting? Like this is all kind of topsy-turvy. This is not making sense yet. And so if you walk away after a couple of sessions and you don't go on, then you may think it wasn't as valuable. So, but the 3-session package oftentimes is very focused. But I had this client. So I had this client who wasn't sure. He kind of wanted to try it out, wait around, see how the experience was. So he signed up for my 3-session package, and it took him 3 months to do 3 sessions. I kind of let people gauge it. I ideally like it every 2 weeks because it has, there's an accountability, that you can follow a lot easier. But we're in the summer, and again, I like to have people design their own experience and not have me tell them how that needs
Right.
to be. So And you know what? I know why it took so long, because this work scared him. He really, it was challenging, because some of the questions I had him digging into, it didn't come from here. Like, you couldn't access it from this headspace. You kind of had to get more in that experiential, how do I feel? What am I sensing? That space. And, but once he got into it, I had him do this one written exercise. And once he produced it, it just had so much meat to it. Like, there was so much to dig into. And by the time that arrived, we were in the third session. So, and I'm never one to push people to continue, but at the same time, I'm like, oh my God, there's so much here. Like, I can see it.
Wow.
And so what happened was, he says, I trust you. Like, I know that this is really challenging. I'm still not, I can't wrap my mind around. I said, it's not something to wrap your mind around. So anyway, long story short, he said he was interested in coaching further. I sent him the information, all that. Didn't hear from him for 2.5 weeks. So I checked back in, and I get this cryptic response, kind of like, I think it would be really helpful if you use more models. And, and there wasn't a lot of, it would be helpful for me. Are there models that we would eventually get into later? Could you tell me a little bit more? Because I'm feeling like this is valuable, but my head is telling me I need more information. There wasn't any of that. Right. There was just, in other words, when we get scared and are in a situation we haven't experienced before, the pushback is, I need you to deliver it for me in a way that makes me feel safe. Right. And yet he didn't know enough to know, one, that he was experiencing that, probably. That's why the cryptic, email. And two, because we don't know, if we don't know what we're really, where we're coming from, it's hard to ask for what we need. True. But two, it was just scary. It was the space of opening up in ways that it hadn't happened before. And it was unexpected and all these things. And so, but it triggered and challenged in me. I wanted to respond to it. Right. And so I thought about it, and the first place I always go is he right? Do I not give enough of that in the beginning in those 3 sessions? And then it's the first response I had was, but that's not the coaching I offer. I'm not a models coach. I'm actually an anti-models coach, in the sense that I'm trying to help people deprogram themselves from the conditioning that has kept them from tapping into those deep personal resources. So it's not that I don't use models. I bring in models all the time, but they're as tools, not to take the experience and create a framework of step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. That I don't do, because that would be, then again, what I ended up saying in my response, I won't get into my full response, but what I did say was, if I handed you a model, you would be, it's like having someone focus on the symptoms of a disease. The symptoms are not the disease, they're the symptoms. The disease is caused by something deeper. And if we don't go and look at that, we're missing the whole point. Yes. When we make the symptoms the disease and say, oh, now that the symptoms are gone, you don't have cancer, for example. Why do most people's cancer come back as a different kind of cancer? It's because the disease never left their body. The symptoms of that particular go around with the cancer went away. So people think, oh, I'm cancer free, but the cancer, the reasons why the disease is in there to begin with, never went away. They were never fully addressed. Right. And so then they come back somewhere else, or they come back worse or whatever. So that's the kind of thing that I'm looking for, is to get into that. And I can't give you a model to do that. Right. I can provide guidance. I can provide the right environment. I can ask questions to help elicit things from you that then you go, aha, oh, there's a breadcrumb that makes sense to me. I want to follow that. Okay, now let's go. I'll be the Sherpa. I'll carry your bags as you go down that path, but that's and so what I said to him in a nutshell is, I'm an experiential coach. I'm not a models coach. I'm not saying that models aren't helpful. Right. And I'm not saying that other coaches that do it differently aren't helpful. That's just not what I do. I really offer more of an opportunity for you to experience aspects of yourself that you've probably never even tapped into, because I have the ability to do that. And, I didn't own that place until I was asked. So that was a big, big breakthrough for me in the last 2 weeks. And since then, I just got 2 opportunities for speaking events come in. And the a woman I spoke to today, I was able to really fluidly express that. Are you getting rained on?
Yes, I'm about to slightly, so I'm just gonna switch up. It's gonna get noisy in there, but I got the headphones. Ignore the noise, right? But we can keep talking. My assistant is coming. She's about to. We're about to
I
do
love
this.
this.
We're about to
You're
do this
moving
on
up in the world. You got assistants. So as
Go ahead,
Wulwyn
keep talking.
transitions, folks.
Correct.
Yeah, as Wulwyn's transitions, we'll keep the conversation going since I've been pretty much carrying the conversation anyway. Yeah, I'm talkative today. It's one of those days. So anyway, the long and the short of it is, you know, when we're challenged, you know, it is important. I did have to go initially to that place and say, is he right? Like let me really look at that. I mean, maybe there's a blind spot and I'm missing something that could be beneficial to my clients. But in investigating that and really feeling from not my head, but my instinctive center, so to speak, I knew that what it was challenging me to do was not question what I was offering or how I was offering it, but more to be able to define better what I do offer. And to be able to then go to bat for that, to be able to communicate that better, you know, and to be able to draw forward that, because that's the space in which we're able to own those aspects of ourselves, right? As in we finally realize, no, you know what, this is my unique place. And I get to own that, but I also get to communicate that effectively. So that's kind of really where it helped me to design that a little bit better. And as I was saying, you know, these two opportunities that came through, I was more in the position to be able to say that right out of the gate. So when they were asking, you know, how are my presentations? How do I go about it? What, you know, what does that look like? You know, I was pretty fluidly able to express that, you know, so then people can tell from right at the beginning whether that's going to be the value they're looking for or whether, you know, they're looking for something else. So anyway, great you know, great learning. Obviously it's a constant refinement, and it looks like we got inside. So are you in a place where you can talk, Wulwyn, or do I need to keep talking? One more minute. Keep talking. He's testing my ability to go on a ramble, which I have great skills at. So anyway, I would, you know, love to know, for those of you who are on and listening, you know, if any of this resonates, or, you know, maybe some experiences that you've had, you know, where these challenges you recognize that these challenges that are coming through have really kind of you know, I wouldn't say forced you, but really allowed you to ask these questions of yourself, you know, and then discover things that if you hadn't been asked, you might not have discovered. So in the chat, if anybody, you know, if that's resonating with anybody and you want to share that,
It's
we'd
resonating with
love
me.
to hear it. He's back.
Yeah, I had it on mute for a while because there is a serious storm going on out there.
You're not kidding.
Right now. No, it's, I mean, it became really, really serious. So, hey, that's what they're eavesdropping on me. Real
I
big
love
time.
it. You're making it happen, my friend. I love
yeah,
this.
Yes, that's I think that's one of the things where no matter what we're doing, even though this is an important thing for my daughter, if it was gonna happen during a game, I wouldn't be here.
Yep.
But because it's an important thing for us to come and, you know, hold this space, as you always say, I think it's we have to make it happen. We have to make it happen.
We get to.
Yeah, definitely. But I was, you know, I think you and I pretty much we didn't talk. I'm gonna do something crazy. I gotta wipe the lens because it looks like water's on it. So
yeah, you got little bubble spots right here by your face.
There you go.
Hi.
There you go. So,
good to see you.
Here I go. Here I go. Yeah. Okay.
There he is, folks.
I love it.
All nice and clean. Right out of the shower.
I know. So no, you were.
Oop. I just lost your sound. I can't hear you.
Went on mute.
There you go.
Automatically did. computer doesn't want me to talk today, but as you were talking this, I kind of, it put me in a framework of people not knowing who you are, who you are. People, you will come across people in your life where they would think they know your calling. They would think they know what you're supposed to be doing. Uh, and when they are strong, they're strong-minded. They're strong-minded. My assistant is trying to take my hotspot. You take my. It's getting me going to take pictures. There, you will meet strong-minded individuals, and these strong-minded individuals may attempt to switch who you are. And if you aren't sure of yourself, they will go ahead and let you know, hey, you create models for me. Whereas the people who are thirsty, the people who will have breakthrough with what you have in your belly will lose if you flip flop. I think the
That
Bible
is
says
such a great
uh,
point.
a double-minded man is unstable in every single thing he does. And you just showed that you are, you're stable in who you are. That's why as we're getting, as God is putting us on platforms, it's so important for us to do the homework on our identity first and foremost.
Mhm.
You
Yes,
have to know who you
that's
are,
right.
because if you don't know who you are and whose you are, anything that comes around, you would tend to go with the herd. Whereas
So strong.
you are correct. Whereas you are the stick in the ground for the herd that's coming in order for them to see you strong so that you can enable them to get strong and move further along the
That's it.
path that you're coaching them or teaching.
Yes. And another piece that I found is so important is humility. Because, we can also be strong and egoic in that place too. I mean, that's why for me, the first question is always at least to be open to the possibility that that person has something valuable to share that I do maybe need to consider shifting or changing, right? I always want to go there first, and not assume, that because I didn't feel defensive when that happened, because this has happened enough times, not exactly in the same way, but I already sensed, because I do have a felt sense of my clients. I feel them, right? For lack of a better way of putting it, like I'll be in a session and all of a sudden, for example, I'll feel, if you know anything about the chakra system, the solar plexus chakra, right? Which is a part of our energy body. Let's put it that way. Is our gut, right? Like solar plexus. So if we got punched in the solar plexus, you know where that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's our power center.
Correct.
And so when someone is disempowered in some way, I'll feel what feels like somebody sticking their thumb in my solar plexus. I'll feel it. And sometimes I'll say, do you have like a kind of are you getting like a blockage in your gut, or like, you have like a kind of that, what is it that people say? I have there's an expression anyway, something in my gut.
Gotcha. Got a gut feeling, butterflies, or
It's more like a blockage, not excitement, but like, anyway, the word's not coming to me, but I can feel it. And sometimes I'll ask and other times I won't, depending on, but I'm aware of, but I can ask questions about it. Are you feeling disempowered anywhere? Have you felt like you've given your power away in some instance? Because I feel it. So I've come to recognize that for whatever reason, I have this gift to feel where my clients are, right? Not necessarily from an emotional standpoint, but where they're holding blockages. I have a felt sense of that. And so, I utilize that as a tool, but at the same time, so I didn't feel a blockage in my own solar plexus. So I didn't feel like my power was being taken. And so from that space, I was able to more easily kind of think about this, like, okay, that's beneficial. And it's like, well, I do use models, but I use them as tools. I don't use them as a gateway, right? I don't have hey, here's my 10-step process. That's not me. So I started to then think, okay, how is that? So again, it allowed me to refine my own process, if you want to call it that. Okay. And more importantly, what I offer. And that's where my response was, I'm not a models coach. I'm an experiential coach. I have you having a first and foremost a felt sense of yourself.
Mm, mm,
And most people, like, where do you get that opportunity? I mean, I know other people do what I do. I'm not saying I'm the only one on the planet, but in coaching, in executive coaching, if people have been coached before, or if they've worked with mentors in business or a business consultants or whatever, is that usually how the experience goes?
mm, mhm,
You
mhm.
know, and so it is something a little bit different, which for somebody who's hiring an executive coach, that might be a bit of a, wow, this is not what I expect. I mean, every single person who has ever worked with me is like, this is not at all what I expected.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. But
yeah.
how do I language that, one, so that people know that this is what they want, and two, so that I know what I offer, and to your point, can stand firmly in that space? Because again, the more we're sure of ourselves, the more we can be humble, right?
Yeah.
We have room for that. We won't lose ourselves in our humility. We won't become a doormat to everybody else's opinions of us in our humility, when we also have this sense of self that says, I'm humble enough to consider your opinion, because again, I don't know everything and I have blind spots. So this is,
Mm,
I'm going to take this as beneficial for me. I just get to decide how.
yeah,
How is
yeah.
it beneficial? Is it beneficial at face value, where yes, you're right, I need more models? Or is it beneficial for me to see beyond that and say, oh, this is what I need to refine about my communication of
Mm,
self, or my acknowledgement of self, or whatever. And I think that that is such a valuable thing. And I thank him tremendously
yeah,
for that experience,
yeah.
because I feel so much more versed at this level of unfoldment in my space, because it's always a journey, right? Like, I'll keep refining,
Correct,
because we keep
correct.
changing and shifting.
That's true.
But in this space now, it's helping me to communicate to other people. And the woman I talked to today, she's like, this is exactly what we're looking for,
There you go.
right?
As you were talking, when you talked about humility, I heard congratulations to the Milwaukee Bucks for winning the National Basketball Championship for the NBA. And Giannis, I heard him speak because he went off with 50 points, I think, missed one free throw. Excellent. I'm saying this because the word, you said, you got to be humble. It makes you humble. He said something that was so profound. I don't live in the past because it's ego. I don't live in the future because it's pride. So how does
Mm.
it look like? It goes, I scored 40 points yesterday. Or I I know how to reach out to people, and this is the way I do it, blah blah blah. So whatever you did in the past, you're boasting on it. Whatever you think you will do in the future, and you can do it in a good dosage. But we're
Yeah,
talking about
that's the key.
really going out and over. I, I did this in the future, and this is what's going to happen. But he says, I live in the present. The present tells me that I have to remain humble. I have to remain that
Mm.
the present moment keeps me humble, because if I start to think about the future and think about the past, I'm adding this piece therefore from what I understood it to be. I cannot concentrate on what I have to do now in order to go to the future.
Oh my God,
Now,
so beautiful.
the
Yes.
yeah, the question asks, you're one game away from winning the championship. What are you thinking about now? And he says, look, there is so much to think about. We have to shower. We have to then get on a bus. After getting on the bus, we're going to go and watch tape when we get home. When we watch tape, we'll find out what went wrong or what went right. We'll develop a plan. When we develop the plan, we're going to execute. So that's what you're telling me about, right? About that game. That's all the things we have to live through in order to get there. Most of us jump in there and say, oh man, it's going to be good. But when we think about the different steps, and when you think about the different steps, there are there are so many things we've been called to do. There's so many things that we see the big picture. But in order to get to that big picture, we have to come and start slicing that thing up and saying, in order for me to write that book, for you to write that book, you had to type and type and type and
And let me
type
ask
and
you
type.
something.
Go ahead.
What are those different slices? I love the way you're talking about this. What are those slices, if not experiences? Right. So when we learn to be experiential in our lives and literally be in the moment within the experience that we're having in that moment, and we get practiced at that, that's the experiential coaching, is getting practiced at, some people say at being, right? I'm talking about, I'm helping you to be. People are like, well, what the heck does that mean? Is by being, most people understand the language of being, learning how to be present.
Correct.
But that's really what it is. Those slices you're talking about, those slices that get us eventually to that. So yes, the vision's important because we got to know where we're going. But when people focus so much on goals, it's a destination. They're always in that future. They're always in the pride, right? I love the pride and ego thing. That is, and the humility and I think that language is fantastic, right? They're always in the my value will be, not my value is. And how can I experience that value in the moment and refine it in the moment? But my value will be. Well, that's one of the reasons we don't write goals in the future tense.
Correct.
Because as long as we're constantly speaking in future tense, guess what? That goal will always be in the future. We're never going to be able to get to it in the present.
That is
right?
so true. That is so true. And it's not, don't have goals. Don't have, know that your goals takes activities, those moments. It takes those activities in order to get it. You can be the best goal writer. I wrote my goals. Show me somebody who doesn't write goals, but they have activities, and show me somebody who would write goals without the activities. Show me a dreamer, and show me someone who actuates what they know they will get to. Right?
Yes.
So it's, I think
But
what I'm
it
hearing is
comes,
just moderation, right? To do things in moderation.
well, and also understanding placement. I just put a post recently out about story, and I think it really jostled some people. And it was funny to see that people who immediately responded, I could tell that they didn't read my blog post.
Gotcha.
Because the blog post never said that there's no reason for story. Don't use story, obliterate story. There's no room for story. It said that story is not to be used for everything. And we tend to think it's all about story. Just like, it's like when I was sitting down with a consultant who does personality tests. And he's like, it's all about the awareness. I said, well, actually, the way I see it is that's where we begin. Right? Awareness is where we begin, but it's not the be all end all. It's just the start point. And so really that's the piece that I say is story is oftentimes used as the beginning, the middle, and the end. And to your point, you just said this, who's the player who talked about
Giannis.
Who?
Giannis.
Giannis.
Yeah, from Milwaukee Bucks.
Fantastic. Brilliant. I love that. Is that when we think about story is past. Story is nothing but past. When we tell our story, we're telling about what already happened, because we can't talk about what hasn't happened yet as far as in story format, right? We can talk about what we'd like to have happen.
True.
But usually when we're talking in story, it's what happened. It's the story of our ancestors. Story is past. That's our ego. That's our brain. That's coming from here. But what about here and gut? What about heart and gut? Like, where's the room for experiential information that can be threaded into our experience? When we're constantly in story, we're constantly in the past. So that was my point, is that just as I'm not going to use a hammer for absolutely every job that I have to get done, I'm not going to use story for everything. But yet I feel like that's kind of we're trying to use one size fits all. Everybody's talking about story branding and storyboards and telling your story. And my point was the three areas I think we absolutely should not use story for is our true identity. We can learn from our story, but we can't best be from our story, right? Whom I truly am as a being, a human being, right? My full capacity, my story will not tell me that, right? My potential, my full capacity, and how to truly connect. And when I was talking in the blog, I actually made the point of little kids. Okay, so preschool kids, not preschool, but pre going into preschool. So
Okay.
little kids, before they go into any kind of schooling, you take those kids to a playground. What happens when they go to engage with one another? A kid waddles up to the sandbox, for example. Does that kid feel the need to introduce themselves, build some rapport and connection before they jump in? No. The kid just jumps in the play box and either starts to do his own thing or her own thing, or starts to engage with other kids. They don't introduce themselves. They don't feel like they have to ask where they're from or where they're, they don't tell story. And people will say, well, it's because linguistically they're not developed enough. Well, but then they connect. So that means they don't need story to do that, which means none of us really do. We've just been conditioned to think we do. And people say, but so much connection can be had in story. I'm like, yeah, it can. But so much more deeper, more refined and subtle connection can happen without story, right? Because we're being with one another. We're just experiencing without being in our heads and in our pasts. And in this person reminds me of this, and I can like them because they're like this person that I know, or I don't really like them because I never experienced someone like them before. Or where's that all coming from? It's keeping us from the experience of literally experiencing that connection with that person in that moment. So that was my point.
Gotcha.
And I know it ruffled some feathers, or at least ruffled some mental feathers, where it was like, but we've learned that. I was in a story slam, and I love the guy who's a coach, coaches people to tell these authentic stories in a way that feels like it's in the moment. But why are we feeling like we have to craft our story to make it look like we're in the moment? These are the expressions you put your face in. These are the things that you say and do to look like you're not crafted, that you're actually being from that moment, but you really crafted it.
Oh, guess what? Guess what you just told me? You just talked to me about models. That's a model. They've seen that model work, and they're taking it and saying, this model works for everybody. Here's your brand story. Here's what it is you have to do. You are so right, but as you not but I hate the but word and because
but the big butt.
Yeah.
Get that big butt out of the way.
I know that. I hate big butts. The B-U-T, don't bring that. But here's the deal. Oh my goodness, when we can get up in the morning and find out that who we are, our identity, just, so I'm in this place right now, and it's a atrium, really, really nice. There are so many people sitting around. I could walk from top to bottom if anybody had how to ask in those shows, those live shows.
Oh yeah, they walk
Press
up and ask
A,
so many
B.
questions.
No. What they have their response kit, three or four. Pick
Like a poll?
A poll, yeah. Pick an A, B, or C, or D to tell me if you like this guy, hate this guy coming down, right?
Got it.
Some people say I hate you. Some people say I like me. Some people say, I hate the way he walks. His legs too skinny, too tall. But the bottom line is, I'm not supposed to attract everybody.
That's it.
Even though they say your story is me walking down, your story is crafted so the people who you're supposed to attract will attract, yes, but not but. Move the but.
And
We have to come in and just be.
yeah.
You see, me coming in and just sitting down and saying, hey, how are you? Oh, I like his accent. Okay, good. There goes something that you're giving me. Oh, I like the way she pronounces X, Y, Z. It's who we are. I've heard it said people mixes based on the person and not what, even though what you're selling must be up to par. But it's if two people have the identical thing, it's about I like this person or I like that person. It's based on just your presence. So
yes.
let's work on our presence. You can work on your story.
but work on our presence. Now, when we're working on our presence is this. If I'm sitting down with someone and I'm talking to them, and then I pick up my phone and I start looking at my phone and texting someone, and the person is here, or if I'm sitting with my wife, which I, she's, hey, honey, we were watching something the other day, and the remote control, I clicked it. It was too slow to respond. So I get on my phone and I'm reading something on Facebook, and I got the remote in my hand like this. And she says, "What are you doing?" I said, and she gets upset. But I said, "Honey, it's not responding." She said, "But can't you use your phone?" I said, "No, I'm on Facebook doing." She's like, "Can you be present?" So working on our presence is being present so that we are focused on that person or on that thing for the little time we have with them on our spectrum of life. And when that person says, "Gosh, that person was here," when I was speaking to that person, oh, he listened or she listened. Can you imagine the impact you've made on that person's life rather than
Yes, the
telling your
impact.
story?
Yes, that's it. It's impact, because legacy is about impact. When I was telling the story, when I was talking about the book, Yes, You Can Change the World, and it was the father's legacy, and the son, arrived at the father's funeral and thought that there would be nobody there. And the impact, the whole story is about the impact. Yes, you can change the world through your impact. And you said something, and I wrote this down: working on my presence releases my essence. So when I work on being present as who I am, it releases my essence, right? This core of who I am, my beingness, so to speak. And that is going to be a natural attractor. I don't have to think about what I need to say to attract people. The marketing strategy. I mean, I'm not saying that there isn't a place. Again, there's place for story, there's place for marketing strategy, there's place for all of this. But at the core, when we're with each other and we really want to make that impact, that impact, not being a person everybody likes, but the impact. Because you could be a person that gets along with everyone and make zero authentic impact. You're always going to make an impact. Little tiny footsteps, little tiny footprints, but because your essence makes its own imprint. And if you can't release your essence, you're not really making the impact you came to make, I believe, in my humble opinion. So this is so huge. And I think that that's the key piece, is that our minds tend to go to the one size fits all. Yes. Oh, story works here, so it must work everywhere. Correct. And that's the point I'm trying to impress upon people, is that before you, same thing with medical care, it's the symptomatic focus. We just focus on the symptom. And if the symptom goes away, then you're good. No, not necessarily. Right. And how do you know you're good? You need to find out if you're good. It isn't just about, oh, I got good report, from the doctor, but you still feel internally sick. Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, we rely so much on the outside world and people's stories and our own stories and all this stuff to tell us these core important things. And I love how you brought my mind to this place of essence. Mm-hmm. Presence is essence, right? Yeah. That's where our essence comes out. And that's the point I was making when it comes to connection. We can make all sorts of connections through our story. People are like, oh, I relate to that because I had a similar story. That's a type of connection. That's not the connection I'm talking about. I'm not saying that this connection is better. I'm just saying what I'm going for is to have people have a deep connective experience with themselves so they can have a deep connective experience in the moment of their lives with other people and other things. Right. That's my coaching.
Yeah. But you said something just now. You have to be. Oh my goodness, this is good. You have to be present with yourself in order to learn how to be present with others.
Yes.
What's been present with ourselves. Being present with ourselves is ensuring that we're having the right thoughts. We are spiritually, just everything on our wheel is right, because when if you and I speak and you're not present with yourself, it shows me that you're not. It shows me in your words you're not sure. It really comes to identity, because being present with yourself uncovers your identity. When you can introspect and sit down and really think on, am I, right? As being present with yourself and finding out your essence. Wow, the words are just plain, right?
I love
And
it.
finding your
It's a
essence.
flow.
And I think when I think essence, for anybody who, I know you know what essence, all of you know what essence means. But here's what I think what essence means. Essence is, if I'm making a pot of soup and I put the carrots and the peas and all the different um, ingredients in there, and I put it in the crock pot, right? The water's there, and there is the meat, the part, the main ingredients. When everything mixes out. Oh no, I know what essence is. Thank you, Lord. Take your juicer, put all your fruits in there, and then take it down, set it down, and leave. Come back in 2 or 3 hours. The essence, you would see the essence of it. Essence is that, oh, help me, Lord. It's just the meat of who you are, that you can't cut it anyway. It's who you are. People see it when you come
The
to sit and
core.
talk to them. The
Yeah.
core. The core. Yes. Ah.
Yeah, your core and your potential impact.
Mm.
You know, it's all well and good to get to our core and our essence and all this, but why? For the impact, right? Because we make can we make an impact at superficial levels? Yeah, we do. We make impact all the time. I walk across the street, not being present, I'm still making an impact, right? It's what kind of impact and what level of impact and what fulfillment we want to experience. Because again, to me, it's about, one of my good friends has a show that she has that she's on YouTube, and it's called The Experience. And I love that, because that's what life is it's just a series of experiences, right? We're here to experience. And so it really is, to me, experiential coaching is about having people have that experience with themselves, so that they can put whatever that version of self, essence of self, how close they get to understanding, refining that can be what they choicefully put out into the world to make an impact. And I just feel like we get so much more juice out of life when we do that. The more intentional we are, the more focused we are on our true essence, not just our story. And again, I don't want to demean any of this, because people who are like story branders and stuff, I don't want to offend anybody. You know, I'm just saying this is where I'm coming from, right? And if that's what people are looking for, if they're looking for something else in that arena, you know, because then people come to me and say, oh, can you just explain X, Y, and Z? I'm not probably the best person for you, right? Can you just present the model on? No, but I can tell you who you can talk to about that, and they'd be a great presenter, right? That's what you need. That's the experience you want. That's the experience you want to bring to your group or whatever. That's fantastic. But I think the key piece is what I'm learning is refining. As I refine that piece of myself, and I love working on my presence, releases my essence. I'm really going to focus on that in the next, 2+ weeks, because I see this a lot. I was just talking to a client today, and he said, I struggle with goals. Like, I've got my business goals and stuff, but personal goals, like, who am I? Where am I going? What do I want to do? Where do I want to be in 5 years? And he says, I spend all this time absorbing other people's work. I'm listening to these podcasts on leadership. And I said, well, there's the problem. I said, you're looking for your core in other people's work. Yes. And think about it. Well, when you've told this story and I've told my story, how did we get our calling? And maybe it's just our current calling, and it'll change over time. But when you got quiet and you talked about God coming to you and saying, well, when you need to leave corporate, you need to give up all this stuff and go do this instead. And you trusted that. That's you being present with your essence, because it's your essence. I believe it's from our essence that we get the clearest communication with God. Like we can get it from other avenues. We may hear God or, in different ways, or we're looking outside into, we're in church and we're looking at the pastor and we see God in his words or whatever. We can get glimpses, but what made that profound shift? What created that in you that you were willing to make those huge shifts in your life and your career was that your essence was connected to what God was telling you. And that is a much deeper, profound connection that we can trust and have faith in much easier than if it's something outside of ourselves connected to like 5 steps removed from us. Right. And I just feel like that makes it easier to have faith and trust. I'm not trying to make it, like it's not just about ease and convenience and comfort zone. But what I am saying is that where people are challenged to listen to that calling and quiet enough where they can hear it. It's about being in that present essence place, because you would have never heard that if you weren't. If you were always in your head thinking about getting to that next level of your career and making $100,000 more. And again, I'm not trying to make it sound superficial, but what I am trying to say is that we can find those answers there, but we can't find the core of who we are and the deep personal impact that we can make in those spaces.
And also some of your essence, your essence could be in corporate. Your essence could be wherever you're supposed to be. But what I know about your essence, everything about essence is about helping other people. It's never selfish.
No, never.
Your essence, it's always about humanity. It's you cannot tell me it's only about you and your family, because me and my family was my work. It's saying, yeah, I'm going to make this 6-figure plus, and I'm going to keep making it. Kids going to go to good school. The wife will be good. I will be great. But then what happens to the other people? The impact, what's the legacy that's going to happen? So essence is always tied to that impact and legacy of bringing other people, removing the clouds, removing the blocks, as you said earlier, to help them get to where they're supposed to go. And where they're supposed to go is never about them. You see, where you and I, people, if you think about your purpose, the essence of who you are in life, and it always ends here, go back and think, because it's never that.
Oh yeah, purpose isn't about getting ahead in our own lives. It's always about the impact we make on others.
It's the impact on others, because life is like passing a baton. We have to pass the baton. If you keep the baton here in use, Traci, who Traci was, the essence of Traci would die when Traci dies. it dies. But what it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be replicated. It's supposed to be replicated. It's that grandma recipe that she did that say, you know what? Let me see which one of my kids. I'm gonna give it to that one, because she will take care of the recipe. My jewelry, I'm gonna give it to the other, because they already know what we are guardians of. So we are guardians of certain things, and they know, because some of us can see the essence of the individual, but until the person grows and finds, this is I'm going to punt this back to you to end us. It's us, it's you seeing, see, you see the essence of people before the end of the engagement. You see the essence in them. However, if you force the essence of somebody on them, it's a crash course.
Oh, yeah, and it usually crashes. I did that in romantic relationships early on, not knowing that I was engaging with their essence.
And if you guide them so that they understand their essence, oh my goodness, the light bulb moment is as beautiful as it is for them, it would be for you. Yes. So it's everything in our purpose. When we do start to execute our purpose here on earth for individuals, the way the individual receives the gift, our essence, our purpose in them, we are going to be doubly rewarding. Back to you, sis, and you can take
Ooh,
this out.
I love this. I mean, I feel like a hallelujah chorus over here, you know, hallelujah.
Sing
I
it,
mean,
girl.
this is so big. I can feel it. I really
And I
can.
can-
And I'm
and I
going to answer something that some people might be thinking.
Sing a dance.
There you go. We're dancing. Well, so purpose. This client this morning, he's like, I struggle with goals and everything. And I said, so I think that the thing is that you're thinking about it in terms of a headspace stuff and not experientially who you are at your core and what your purpose is. He says, well, how do I find that? I said, well, you don't find it with this. I said, you know, when I realized what my quote unquote big, hairy, audacious goal was, it was a divine download that always have come to me in book titles. I talked about that. And it was that I'm supposed to work with the top leaders I mean, we're talking about the Elon Musks. And when that came through, I'm like, what? How the heck am I going to get there? My head tells me this, right?
Oh.
But my core knew that whatever the reason was that I was getting this, it was absolutely true. I had no idea how I was going to get there. And it made no rational sense to me. But I knew that's where I belonged. So how do I rectify the knowing with the thinking? Well, we have to open up the feeling, and then how we feel and what we gravitate towards, and positioning ourselves and continue to tell our story. This is who I want to work with, because then maybe somebody who can come along and help me with my how. Right. And we just piece it together through experiencing. But what I said to him was, this is what I want you to do in the next 2 weeks. What gaps do you see? What are you driven to build? Why? For whom? Or for what purpose? All right. So I'll say that all for you again, right? For those of you who are trying to find your purpose, I don't know what my purpose is. My essence, all of that. This is new to me. What do you see that's missing? What do you feel the need to build? What are you building at all times? Because we're creators. People say, I'm not creative. I'm like, are you kidding me? Every single human being is creator. We're all creative. All right. You may not consider yourself a creative. You can't paint, you can't draw, whatever. You can, you may just not think you do it well, but we all create. So what are you seeing that you want to create more of? Because that's the thing we always see in gaps. We're here to fill gaps, right? Plug our puzzle piece into that gap that is just right for our value. What are you needing, or what are you seeing you want to build? Why? And for what or whom? Right? What are you seeing you want to build? Why? And for what or whom? And that'll start building you towards your, because for me, before that download came in, I was fascinated with leadership. I'm like, who's most impactful out there to all of us in our culture? Those big top industry leaders. In a capitalistic society, that's how it works.
Yes, true.
Right? So we're impacted more by those leaders than we are the government leaders. Right? Or then our daily teachers. I mean, in a cultural way, not maybe in a personal way, but in a cultural way, we're deeply impacted. Our belief systems, how we live our day-to-day lives, how we tell ourselves we're allowed to do X, but not allowed to do Z. That all comes from, in capitalistic cultures, from those top leaders of industry. That's where those things come from. So leadership then would be incredibly important to come from an authentic place. If those people are just trying to get ahead, guess what they're teaching us? Guess what the trickle down, ripple down effect is modeling for us, right? That capitalistic society, just want to get ahead, need to make money. My purpose is to make money and take care of my family and get ahead and win and whatever. So I saw gaps in that because I didn't see it was teaching us good things, taking us in good directions. So I became fascinated. What did I want to build? Better leadership. Where? At the top. Why? Because that impacted everything. How? Still figuring that out.
And that's the process, right?
And it's the experiential process where I have to allow my essence to show up, because if not, how will people know I'm there looking and they can't help me, right? So we need to talk about it. We need to show up in that space, and we need to have courage to do so, because sometimes it takes us way out of our comfort zones.
Traci, thank you. I truly enjoyed this one. Hey, on location, what I could do, before we end, I can show you, but I think I would love to show my assistant. Just show her face. Please wave. Jazz. Come on, baby.
Come on, girl. Hey. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for letting me use your hotspot. And then what I want to do is, I think I should show this beautiful place. And
She's so cute.
this is indoors.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you're in DC, you come to the National Harbor. This is where it's at. But thank you so much for thank you for being kind to me in the setting up and not making me antsy or anxious. Really appreciate it.
You know, I'm always here to create that space for you. And thank you for showing up, because it's easy for us to say, oh, I don't know, this is going to be challenging. It gets to be hard. And you're like, I'm just making this happen. We're going to experience this and it'll be what it is. And I really appreciate that, because you're modeling that for people, because I think a lot of us really struggle with that. And just like, oh, if it's not going to be perfect, or if it's not going to be the way it should be,
Correct.
I'd rather just postpone or not do it, but show up. Like you showed people how to show up today. So thank you for that. That was really great.
Thank you, sis.
All right.
Hey,
We'll see.
everybody. You take care.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
I know. Bye-bye.
I tell you what, Wulwyn, it just gets better and better and better.
I know.
I mean, with kinks and all, like
Yep.
it's not about the perfection of the delivery, kind of like what we were saying last time. It's not about streamlining it on Apple and iTunes and
That's
making
right.
it just right. It's literally about showing up and just being present.
Yeah, it is. It is. Isn't it? I mean, wow. Wow. Please text me what you want. To there's a bummer.
I love that, girl. Hey, girl, you're awesome. Flaunt it. Go for it.
So please text me what you want us to call this. What in fact, let's do it right now. Can you just give me a second?
Cultivating presence, or something about presence and essence. You're present, like presence. Maybe it's just presence and essence.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I'm gonna.
Short and sweet.
Yes, I'm gonna. put
And no
this-
butts.
No.
No big butts. Presence and essence and no big butts.
7/21/21. Presence and essence. There you go. This is what was the eavesdrop. Okay, dear. Well, let me go back on the that.
Yes, thank you for letting us borrow you, and thanks to Jazz, and I wish her the best and all the rest of the stuff that she's doing there.
Definitely. All righty. Thank you. I'll let her.
All right, I got you.
Bye.
Bye.